Today we're redesigning GrubHub, and specifically we're redesigning the landing page that you hit when you go to grubhub.com on your desktop device. Now this is a special case where the user hasn't given their location yet, so GrubHub kind of has to solicit that and show some general options based on what they think their location is. The whole goal here is to kind of convince users that GrubHub is a good alternative to, say, DoorDash or Uber Eats, and kind of get them on board with the brand. Presumably, once users go through and add in their location, it will take them to a different page where they'll be able to sort and filter everything. But this seemed like an interesting use case where it's not necessarily showing all the restaurants, but just kind of getting users okay with the idea of using GrubHub in the future. As always, here's the brand guidelines that I've taken from their website. I've just sampled it from this image here. I'm using this really nice saturated purple as the primary accent color, and we're bumping them up to some really nice modern fonts that feel friendly but don't detract from readability at all. Here's the stories. Very simple one. I'm just searching for food options near me, sharing my location, and editing an account if I need to. Nothing crazy here. Let's just get in there and start redesigning. My initial approach here was to just completely simplify everything and make it much easier for the user to enter their delivery location and then get some results. But upon trying this, I kind of realized that I took away a lot of the personality of the brand, and there was really no landing page aspect of the design anymore. It was just a search and filter experience. So I ended up going back on a lot of these decisions and adding a lot more personality in there, a little layer in the design. Here you can see me playing around with different layouts and different sorts of aesthetics to try and add some personality back into this landing page, but all happened to no avail. I think eventually I had to just move to the next section and come back to this one eventually. Here I wanted to give users a sampling of reasons why they should use GrubHub over one of the alternatives, and I figured putting this just below the location input would force that users would see it, and then we could just place results simply underneath it. But ultimately I deviated from this a little bit because I felt like we weren't really solving the core user problems here, because we haven't actually inspired the user to continue reading the page so far. It's just a search bar. There's no emotional pull to get them through the page, so we eventually have to go back and revisit the header here. A good cheap way to inject personality into a landing page is to use a very light hue of the accent color as a background color. That way it kind of feels like their brand as opposed to just a document with text on it. And I'm abusing this technique here in the header to kind of get this section to feel more like what I would imagine the GrubHub brand could be. As you can probably tell by the way I'm trying to frame things here, I really want to have this landing page focus on what's unique and special about GrubHub. And in this imaginary scenario, I'm picturing a GrubHub where they really focus on exceptional customer service. That's one of those things that delivery apps tend to get a lot of crap for. They're just, people don't really pay much attention to the quality, and it's often drivers that aren't necessarily 100% vetted. So that's the angle I'm going with here, and I'm trying to help that value proposition be communicated to the user in different sections throughout the page. Now, of course, the user hasn't shared their delivery address yet, so we don't know what their nearest restaurants are, but I believe we can use their IP address to figure out roughly their geographic location and then present options that are in, say, the greater Atlanta area without having to know their exact location. So that's what we're doing here, just showing some popular local options to help tease the user into what they could potentially experience if they wanted to continue through the flow and provide their exact location. Now, although the icons in the benefits section there look clean, it does kind of feel more like a SaaS application. So we're going back to the source material and pulling some of these nice illustrations that they have. The nice flat design kind of feels a lot more friendly, and of course it matches the restaurant category selectors as well, and we're popping them into the benefits section instead. And of course, whenever you're trying to convince someone that it's safe to proceed, you generally want to lean on some kind of social proof. And for B2B applications, you generally want longer case studies with a fewer amount of companies, but B2C apps like GrubHub, you're going to want a whole bunch of local reviews just cascading on the screen to overwhelm the user with examples of other people in their neighborhood that have been using GrubHub successfully. So here's what we're doing. We're adding in a whole bunch of testimonials, and we're probably going to add some animation on here as well to get users thinking, wow, there's basically an infinite amount of other people that are having success with GrubHub. Maybe I could join. All right, there we go. I think this does a much better job in kind of convincing the user to share their delivery address. Of course, we're not actually showing the main search and filter experience for GrubHub, but that wasn't the goal of this project, right? So really here what we're doing is we're kind of helping the user understand what is unique about GrubHub. Like, why should I use GrubHub versus all the other food delivery options available to me? And I think we've achieved that with some really nice imagery, some really clean fonts, and very clear visual hierarchy. So here we're kind of just pulling the user's attention in, showing them a preview of all the restaurants that could be relevant to them when they share their location, giving them a little bit of an understanding as to kind of what the difference is between GrubHub and the other platforms, and then of course showing a whole bunch of reviews from other users that are in a similar location to the one browsing now. But that's just about it. Let me know if you think this UI would get you to share your location with GrubHub, or if there's maybe something that's still missing. As always, when I'm done with these designs, there's just something that's missing. It just needs to be tweaked a little more, so any feedback would be really appreciated in the comments. Either way, I hope you found something valuable from this one, folks, and have a lovely week. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.